Update.
Well, Micah Parsons is in Green Bay a day after one of the more shocking trades in recent memory. Saw him go from Dallas to the Packers. Green Bay sent the Cowboys defensive tackle Kenny Clark and 2 first-round picks to land the 4-time All-Pro, considered by many among the best defensive players in the league and the top young pass rusher in the game, having piled up 52.5 sacks in his first 4 seasons, combines with Rashawn Gary to give the Packers one of the better pass rushing duos in the NFC. Green Bay can open the season just 9 days from now against Detroit. Turning to the Badgers, for a third straight year, they saw their starting quarterback go down with an injury. Billy Edwards Jr. lost in the second quarter of Wisconsin's 17-0 win over Miami of Ohio, though his knee injury is not expected to keep him out an extended period. In his place was transfer Danny O'Neal, who earned some strong praise from wide receiver Vinny Anthony after the game.
I think he stepped up to the plate, and I think I told him in the locker room, I was like, I'm very proud of you, bro, like just for stepping up and not really flinching. You could tell like he was just like confident in himself and not really like hesitating and all that stuff, kind of stuff like that. And I just thought he did a great job.
Wisconsin will host Middle Tennessee State coming up next Saturday.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Get insurance from a company who knows Wisconsin and cares about your community. You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer, but did you know they also offer competitive home and auto rates? Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more about products and discounts.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the two teams with the best records in baseball facing off tonight as Milwaukee and Toronto meet north of the border. The Brewers come in 83-52. Blue Jays are an AL best 78-56. Milwaukee, though, just 5-8 since that 14-game winning streak. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
We need to continue to ramp up our sense of urgency. The life of a player in the National Football League is not very long. We got a bunch of good guys in that locker room. We got a bunch of talented guys in that locker room. And yeah, I think it's time that we start competing for championships, right?
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That's Brian Gutekunst. If you recognize that, I've played that cut. I've gone back to that a couple of times. That was in January at their end of season press conference. And I don't think Brian Gutekunst made that comment with the intention of, yeah, it's time to ramp up our sense of urgency. So watch me go trade for Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, which funny enough, like we had a stretch or we had a window with all of those guys where it's like, should the Packers trade for Max Crosby? Should the Packers trade for we went through all those guys. We ran through every single one. I don't think that was the intention behind Gutekunst's comments. As hard as I tried to make that the point of Goody's comments, we certainly did a bunch of segments on it. But it's hard to ignore, right? When you kind of set it on the table like that before the offseason, before the combine, before the draft, before free agency, you know, it's hard to hear that and not think, okay, well, what do you mean by that? So I thought that was an appropriate soundbite to begin the show. I experienced the inverse this morning of something that I've experienced with the Packers many times. I've often found that the worst part of the season-ending playoff loss, and Packers fans, we've had plenty because our team's in the playoffs a lot. So it's going to happen. I don't like Wisconsin sports fans, we always lose in heartbreaking. You know, most teams do. Most teams that make the playoffs a lot lose most years in heartbreaking fashion. So we're not as special as sometimes I think we like to make ourselves seem. But I think the worst part, to my original point, of the season-ending loss is waking up the next morning. Right? Because when your team loses in an NFC championship game, it's like, that sucks. But the way that I handle it is, it's sports. You got to go on with real life. And you kind of make your way through that Sunday afternoon and evening or Saturday night and Sunday afternoon. And then you wake up the next morning, you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. That thing happened. And for me, not to make this about me, for me, it's worse. Because like, Monday morning, now 6 hours of my day are going to be dedicated to talking about that thing on air, which can be a little bit of a bummer. This morning, I experienced the inverse. I stayed up way too late last night, mostly because the Badger game went until after 11 because we started at 8:15 because why not? Why isn't that the best outcome for fans attending the game and watching on TV? Of course you started at 8:15. And then I stayed up because, I don't know, just because. And I woke up this morning, I'm like, I felt so groggy. And I'm like, today's going to, that's right. Packers did something good. They traded for Micah. All right, maybe today won't be so bad. So I hope you've carried a similar energy today. I hope you've been able to power through the last day before a holiday weekend with a little bit of that Micah Parsons wind in your sails. We got Ryan Wood coming up in about 10 minutes. I do want to talk Badgers. I want to react to last night. We'll do that, I don't know, later. And that'll be a little bit up to you, too. If you want to talk Badgers, call in and we can do it. 608-321-1670. Otherwise, maybe I'll get to it at 5 o'clock. But I want to start, before we get to Ryan Wood here in about 10 or 12 minutes, with a little housekeeping. This is Tom Pelissero kind of, I guess, describing just the nuts and bolts, the inner workings of how this came together. This is from NFL Network earlier today, and I think Tom Pelissero is great. Here he is talking about the timeline, kind of how this came together, just to get a better understanding of how we eventually arrived at Micah Parsons being a Packer.
But this is not something that came together quickly. Ever since Micah Parsons publicly requested a trade back on August 1st, there had been calls from several different teams into the Cowboys about whether or not they would move Micah Parsons. Initially, it seemed as if people couldn't really tell whether Dallas was serious about this, but it escalated in recent days. This deal did not even get done between the Packers and Cowboys yesterday. This had been in place, from my understanding, along with Ian Rappaport and Jane Slater. This trade was locked in between the teams several days ago. This was all down to the contract and whether the Packers would do the type of deal that Micah Parsons would need to move on from the Cowboys after 4 years and head to Green Bay. They ended up doing that on a 4-year, $188 million contract extension. That's $47 million per year, by far making him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history.
So the Packers and Parsons, and I guess the Cowboys, these camps had kind of agreed to trade terms, meaning 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark. And then there was a couple of days spent hammering out the contract, which tip of the cap to everyone in both the Packers and the Cowboys organization for keeping this under wraps, because Elite could bring it all crashing down. So again, tip of the cap to everyone in and around the Packers organization for not saying anything. Well, except for one person who backed off it a little bit and then circled back to take a victory lap, which is kind of odd. But I guess, again, when things leak, right, like I think that was a little bit why the Bogdanovich thing fell through, is because somebody, who was it? I don't want to name names. It was Alex Lazary, had to go bark his big mouth. And then Woj started sniffing around and the league started sniffing around, and that was that. So to keep it quiet for a couple of days while the contract got hammered out. A couple, continued thoughts on yesterday. I still can't believe the compensation. Again, it's always going to be first round picks, and then what's next? That's the starting price tag. That's where negotiations begin. And to not give up a second next year or the year after, and I'm not going to stay up at night thinking about third or fifth round picks, but to hold on to the remainder of both of the next 2 drafts following round number 1 is a pretty darn good spot, I think, for the Packers. You give up Kenny Clark. I'd rather give up Kenny Clark than Rashawn Gary or some other players, certainly. I didn't really understand the compensation. I didn't really understand why the Cowboys went for it and why the Packers got away with that. And don't get me wrong, 2 first-round picks is significant, but that's, again, the starting point. I was more interested in what else are you going to have to throw in to make this happen. And it's not a whole lot. It's Kenny Clark. But listening to Jerry Jones last night and then reading and listening to some of the reporting, the only offers that the Cowboys were hearing, first of all, it's a limited group of teams who have the salary cap space to be able to do this right now, right? Quite literally a week before the season starts. So the Packers were already in a small group, but apparently the Cowboys were only listening to offers from teams who could also offer a defensive tackle to help stuff the run, because Jerry's so intent on being able to stuff the run. And I get that. Also, Kenny Clark is not like a perfect run stuffer. He's more of a playmaking nose tackle who can stuff the run a little bit. He's not a perfect fit for their front, and he's 30. So the idea is, well, if you're doing even a soft rebuild, the timeline is not this year, but Kenny Clark is a player for this year. So that part of Jerry Jones' press conference last night, among a lot of the other parts, kind of left me scratching my head, but at least I better understand kind of how the trade was hammered out and how the compensation was agreed on. So the compensation I love, the fit I love. He's going to make life so much easier for Rashawn Gary. He's going to set up more opportunities for players like Edgerrin Cooper and Xavier McKinney. Now, Bill Michaels talks a lot about, because he was around the Packers in the late 90s when he first got to town, and he would have conversations with people in the organization because he worked for the flagship, which means he basically worked for the team. So he had these conversations with coaches and people in the front office. And he always references, like, I have 2 or 3 things that I never stop repeating. One of the things that Bill always references is in a conversation with Ron Wolf. I always talked about how you need a Pro Bowler at all 3 levels of the defense. You need one on the back end, corner or safety. You need one in the linebacking core, and you need one in the pass rush. Now, I think Xavier McKinney qualifies. And the hope is that Edgerrin Cooper can qualify at least a little bit. We hope that he takes a huge leap in year 2, but even if he takes just a little bit of a leap, he's still a dangerous playmaking player. So I think that counts. And now you add the guy on the defensive front. So back end, middle, defensive front, you have a guy who can make game-wrecking plays. And I think Micah Parsons can set up Rashawn Gary, who can make some game-wrecking plays. I don't want to have to rely on him down in, down out of every week. Now the Packers don't have to. So I'm excited to see the football fit and how he makes life easier and sets other guys up around him. Something we talked about yesterday, something we'll talk about more tonight. Something that I didn't mention last night and something that I really was thinking about on my drive in today. And I mentioned to Bill, but I wanted to mention this right off the rip before we break and get to Ryan Wood and get to some of your phone calls. Something that I've been thinking about and something that I've been hoping. I hope that especially all of the younger, and it's a pretty young team, but players like Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed, Edgerrin Cooper, Dontavian Wicks, Matthew Golden, Jordan Love, Devontae Wyatt, Evan Williams, right? That kind of cluster of players. I hope those players recognize the opportunity that they've been given. I hope they recognize the importance of this upcoming season, especially probably the next few seasons is now the Packers' window. But I hope that there's a certain element of locking in around the Packers locker room and around the clubhouse. And I hope these guys aren't, I bet they're excited and I bet they're doing jumping jacks and they're fired up. Can you believe it? We got Micah Parsons. But I hope that excitement and that energy quickly translates to what a massive opportunity we have this season. Last year, we needed a wide receiver 1. Now Matthew Golden's here. We needed a stud on our pass rush. Now Micah Parsons is here. We have depth everywhere. We've been this young, developing, growing team that's very tight. That's all kind of coming up together. I hope all those players realize and appreciate the opportunity that now lies in front of them. Now, I'm not someone who believes, well, the Packers are cowards. They should make moves like this way more often. Folks, there's just not many of these moves that can be made by any teams, let alone by one team. Like the Packers are not going to trade multiple premium picks every 2 or 3 years. It's just not something that's going to happen because the stars do truly have to align for moves like this to be made. So I'm not someone who believes, well, I wish the Packers would have done this years ago. I wish the Packers would have done this. The stars lined up for them to do it now. And I hope that Jordan Love and Jaden Reed and Tucker Kraft and Romeo Doubs and Zach Tom and a player like Rasheed Walker. And then on the defense, of course, kind of that young cluster of players are coming up together. Devontae Wyatt, to a lesser degree, Rashawn Gary, but I still count him. Edgerrin Cooper, Evan Williams. I hope all these players are excited, but I hope that excitement quickly translates to we really need to lock in because the NFC between the Eagles and the Vikings and the Lions and the Bears in our own division and the Rams in the West and who knows with the Niners, like we have a roster and a window now where we're going to have an opportunity to really compete for championships. So the pre-snap penalties and the emotional penalties and the drops and the misreads and the misplays and the things that plagued them all throughout the season last year that kept them from beating the Lions and the things that kept them from beating the Vikings and the things that really, really, really bit them against the Eagles. Those things have to start to go away, and they have to start to go away in a week and 4 days when they host the Lions. And I hope that this move, brings excitement, yes, and joy. And I hope everyone's psyched out of their minds in that locker room about this. But I also hope that they very, very quickly realize, oh boy, we have a golden opportunity here that we cannot waste by playing slap and tickle at practice Monday through Friday and continuing to make pre-snap penalties and committing, alignment penalties and committing special teams mistakes and fumbling on special teams and dropping the ball in moment. Like all that stuff has to go away. And it was going to have to go away anyways, but I really hope that the arrival of Micah Parsons has everybody in that locker room going, oh boy. Because if Micah Parsons shows up and is as advertised, but the rest of the team looks like it looked last year, I'm really going to be disappointed in this group of young players that I still very much believe in. Like I still have so much hope and belief in Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, Tucker Kraft, Jordan Love. Like, yes, I still believe, and I think those guys will continue to develop in a way that maybe we hoped for last year, but we didn't quite get there. And then on defense as well, younger guys like Evan Williams, Lucas Van Ness, Edgerrin Cooper. I still believe in the development. Like, Micah Parsons isn't here to save the day. He's here to help finish the job. But he can absolutely not do it alone. This team isn't close enough for him to be, well, we got the final piece. Now we're going to win. Like, no. It's going to take a little bit more than that. And I hope the arrival of Micah Parsons is met with a lot of focus and recognition by the rest of the locker room, especially those young guys, a recognition by those guys that, oh, this is an opportunity that a lot of teams don't get and a lot of players don't get in careers in the NFL that are all too often very short, as you heard Brian Gutekunst reference in that press conference from January, that comment that I threw in the intro. So I hope that's how he's received in the locker room, and I hope that's where it's going. We'll talk more about this with Ryan Wood in a couple minutes, who joins us every Friday throughout the season thanks to Lacrosse Beer House, the corner of 3rd and Pearl, right downtown. I can't wait. I'm going to be doing a show there the week before Oktoberfest, and then I'll be back the next week. We'll all be there for the tapping of the golden can. Bill and Ebo over the line. I love being in La Crosse for Oktoberfest, but I'm going to probably back-to-back weekends be down at the Beer House. So I appreciate them supporting the show, whether it's been trips to spring training or trips to the Super Bowl. And now an opportunity to have one of my favorite Packers writers, one of my favorite radio hits, Ryan Wood, joining us every Friday. I wonder what we're going to talk about, is what Ryan joked when I texted him last night. So he's going to join us next. Again, thanks to La Crosse Beer House. We'll be back with Ryan Wood, USA Today Packers News, to talk about Micah Parsons and the press conferences that are going to fire up here in about 45 minutes. Goody, LaFleur, Micah Parsons, all of that we'll discuss with Ryan Wood next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Zone Blitz pregame bash is back. Every Wisconsin home game 2 hours before kickoff at the Blue Moon Bar and Grill. And this year, do I have something special for you? It's a perfect snack for game day or any day. Wenzel's Farm Pro Snack Sticks. Come see me and I'll hand you 16 grams of protein to fuel you through the day. Wenzel's Farm offers that and so much more, crafted in small batches using premium cuts of meat, perfectly seasoned, and naturally hardwood smoke. Check out wenzelsfarm.com. Made by pros for pros.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. We're going to get to Badgers' reaction later on in the show. Jackson Churio's with the team. It looks like he's going to be in the lineup tomorrow, assuming nothing happens, so we can discuss that as well. More of your phone calls on all of that as we continue the show towards 6 o'clock. We'll try to get some comments from Goody, LaFleur, Parsons. Those pressers were pushed back a little bit. I believe those are going to start around 5 right now. Ryan Wood, Packers News USA Today, is joining us. Thanks to Lacrosse Beer House. Ryan, So I don't want to get out over our skis here, because anytime a move like this happens, we learned this with Damian Lillard, people can go a little nuts. It's like, well, if they don't win at least one championship, okay, I don't want to go that far, but I know you're a writer, you're a storyteller. It's hard not to see a move like this and experience a cover move like this and think, yeah, this is the type of move and this is the type of trade that, like, they make documentaries about this stuff years later if it plays out with big time postseason wins. It's hard not to let your mind go there, right? And especially you, I would imagine, as a writer and someone who lives this stuff.
Well, it happened with Reggie White all those decades ago, right? And that's not to say that history will repeat itself. There's never a guarantee that history does repeat itself, but there's a precedent. And this is the closest thing that you can possibly compare to that moment when the Green Bay Packers signed Reggie White. That's what this is for the modern era. I just pulled into Lambeau Field here. We're less than an hour away from talking to Brian Gutekunst. And think about this, Grant. Think about how many players he signed over the years. 7 years now as GM. There's been a lot of them. He brought in Jimmy Graham. He's brought in guys. He does not often have a introductory press conference for a signing.
Yeah.
This is not business as usual for Brian Gutekunst and the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are flying Micah Parsons in today, and they're introducing him right away because this is a different day. That's what this moment is.
So let's talk about the last couple of days, because Packers fans, we're a little jaded. We've been in on lots of players over the last 10 or 15 years, and a lot of them haven't come to fruition. So as you've covered this and you've interacted with Packers fans, and I don't know if it's reading tweets or reading comments or just communicating with fans, I hear a lot of, well, this is not something the Packers would ever do. This isn't something that's like them. And yet it's taken place. So where is that disconnect? Why do maybe fans think that way? And why was this time different?
Well, I think in the fantasy football culture, you're used to just being able to go and get who you want,
sure.
Right? You want a player, go get a player. In reality, in real football, to make a trade like this, you have to have a dance partner. And so rarely do you actually have a dance partner who is willing to lose their marbles the way that Jerry Jones did and trade a 26-year-old Micah Parsons. That's just not usual in this league. And if you don't have that, you don't have a trade. Like you need to have it both ways in order to pull something like this off. And Grant, you talk about the stars aligning. That's what it was. Yeah. Jerry Jones was willing to offload one of the best players in the NFL, not in the middle of his prime, at the beginning of his prime. That just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. And as I've said with Packers fans, it's like, look, I would always bet against a move like this going down. But if it were, right, these are the stars. These are the stars that would need to align. And for that reason, I think I got a little bit more excited about this one than maybe some in the past. Or, earlier in the offseason when it's like, oh, maybe Max Crosby or maybe Trey Hendrickson. This one felt different. You mentioned Jerry Jones, and we're both outsiders. Well, you probably know some people around the Cowboys, and you talk to folks around the league. But do you think Jerry making this trade is an example of his hubris or his ego? Or do you think this is actually an example of him setting his ego to the side and doing what he thinks is an egoless thing, trading away a star for the better of his team? What do you think his reasoning was behind this?
I'm not in Dallas. On the outside looking in, it feels like you can't dismiss ego as being part of this. But the other part of that, it sure feels like what happens when you have an owner who's acting like a GM who just doesn't know the game at a GM level.
Okay.
Doesn't know the game like a Brian Gutekunst or a Howie Roseman or a Brandon Beane, because you've seen two teams really kind of flip-flop their strengths here. There's no question the Packers' run defense is now a question in a way that it wasn't with Kenny Clark. What's the trade-off there? They have maybe the best bookend pass rush off the edge in the entire NFL, and not just Micah Parsons, but obviously Rashawn Gary, which to me, keeping Rashawn Gary is what, if you trade for Micah Parsons, that's a home run in and of itself.
Yep.
You cleared the outfield wall with that. What makes this a grand slam is that you did that while keeping Rashawn Gary. So now you just put those guys on the edge, and good luck with that opposing offensive lines. The run defense, that's going to be more of a question. Jerry Jones, he's not a football-minded GM the way that you see around the league. What is he? He's a salesman. He needs something to sell. And he can sell Kenny Clark. You heard it yesterday, right?
Yeah.
He sold Kenny Clark, got a Pro Bowl player. The run defense is better. Well, okay, it's a passing league. Not to say you don't need to stop the run. The Packers will need to stop the run. But if you had to choose, would you rather rush the passer or stop the run? You choose rush the passer every single time. The Cowboys now feel like they can stop the run better, but they lost a massive. You can't overstate how big of a piece they lost in their pass rush, and that ultimately, just look at the last Super Bowl. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles last year. Rushing the passer wins championships.
Yeah.
Stopping the run's important. It does not win championships. That's the difference, and that's what you see. That's the dichotomy, the juxtaposition of these two franchises and what this trade means.
Ryan Wood is here, Packers News USA Today. He's on Twitter @ByRyanWood. Thanks to Lacrosse Beer House for bringing him every Friday to us. I wanted to ask you, and you might have answered it in that last round of remarks, but I wanted to ask you who you think the biggest football beneficiary is of Micah Parsons' arrival. And you mentioned Rashawn Gary. Do you think that's the answer, or do you have other players in mind?
Yeah, as far as player, yes. Who's the biggest winner here? It's hard not to say Jeff Hafley. Something that's been kind of rolling around in my mind the past 24 hours. This feels like a moment where Jeff Hafley might have just stamped his ticket to be an NFL head coach in a year, right? I mean, he had an excellent year one, and now he's got elite players, elite talent at all levels of his defense. Micah Parsons, Edgerrin Cooper, a guy that the Packers absolutely believe to develop into a star at linebacker in year two, and obviously the best safety in the league in Xavier McKinney. All levels of Jeff Hafley's defense, there's elite talent, and you fully expect this group to take a significant jump in year two with his scheme. In Micah Parsons, they have someone who's not just the pass rusher. They've got a queen on the chessboard, right? He can be used in so many different ways. And what do we know about Jeff Hafley? His bag of creativity is endless. We saw that last year. They went into the regular season last year thinking, okay, just rush for 4, drop 7. That's the blueprint. They found out very quickly that they could not do that, and they still finished top 10 in the league in sacks last year, mostly because Jeff Hafley was able to adapt on the fly. He was creative enough with his scheme to still generate pressure. Now, he's got Micah Parsons in the mix of all that. As far as players, yes, Rashawn Gary's never had a double-digit sack year. For a couple years now, I think you look at Rashawn Gary and you think, boy, he'd be a great number 2 option as an edge rusher. Is he quite that elite number 1? He hasn't hit that level yet. That's what he is now. He's a number 2 option in the pass rush, and he's not as a number 2. He's not going to be facing double teams near the regularity as he has in the past. He should only be better. I'll call it right now. This is going to be the first double-digit sack season of Rashawn Gary's career. He's going to clear that threshold because that's the influence of having a Micah Parsons across the defense.
So I was pleased with the defense last year, especially when they stopped the run. I think they found a way to do that consistently throughout the year. That almost seemed to me as something Jeff Hafley said, okay, the pass rush might not be perfect, coverage might not be perfect, but damn it, we're going to stop the run and we'll figure it out from there. That's kind of what it looked like. From your football perspective, why did they have some of their worst performances? Eagles, Lions, Vikings. It's like they couldn't get their feet set under them in those games. What did you notice in those games that Micah Parsons could help fix? I know it might just be as simple as rushing the passer, but speak a little bit more clearly to those games specifically last year.
Well, I'll take you back to the NFC wildcard game.
Okay.
Early on, the Packers, Keyshawn Nixon fumbles the opening kickoff, and that first touchdown pass that Jalen Hurts threw, where he had enough time to make a pot of coffee, do his taxes, take a nap, and then find a receiver in the back of the end zone, because you simply in this league cannot cover that long. Quarterbacks don't have that luxury now. It is as simple as rushing the passer. Now, there's the other element to that. There is stopping the run, and Micah Parsons is not known to be a great run defender. At the end of the day, you want to lead pass rushing. That's what you get in him. I think as much as, Kenny Clark could really return to the nose tackle position in camp. It's been a home of his throughout his career. But I think as significant as losing Kenny Clark might be to the run defense, I think what's even more significant than that for the run defense is losing TJ Slayton this spring to the Cincinnati Bengals in free agency. Yeah. He was the real anchor these past 2 years of what was borderline top 10 run defenses. TJ Slayton's ability to dominate inside, to kick Kenny Clark out to the 3-tech. That was the anchor. I wonder if Ryan Gutekunst actually had a crystal ball and he knew that, okay, you're going to trade Kenny Clark for Micah Parsons. I wonder if he might have ponied up and kept TJ Slayton, because that would have made a world of difference when you're talking specifically about the run defense. I wonder if, okay, you got Warren Brinson as your Stackhouse as your depth on that defensive tackle depth chart. I wonder if Ryan Gutekunst might bring in a guy off the street, a big body,
Sure,
just to be able to better anchor against that run.
Two more as we get out of here, because I know you got a press conference to get to at the top of this hour. The stars are aligned, as we talked about. Player in his prime, position of need. The Packers had the ammo and the cap space to do it. That's reason enough to make a move like this. But also, I want to know what role, if any, the new boss ed policy and the contractual situation, specifically of Brian Gutekunst, what role, if any, do you think that played in maybe forcing this deal across the finish line?
Well, if you listen to everything Ed Policy has said since being elevated into that new top man role, and he had a meet and greet with me and a few of the other beat writers this summer. We had a long chat with him. Everything he has said, he has echoed Mark Murphy. What has been Mark Murphy's role? Mark Murphy's primary focus was always the business side. He did what Bob Harlan did. He learned directly from Bob Harlan's role, and that was leave the football decisions to the football people. I don't think Ed Policy is any different when it comes to that. And I think, the Dallas Cowboys just shows you what happens when you don't leave football decisions to the football people.
Yeah.
You make mistakes. And I think that's bottom line. That's what the Dallas Cowboys have done here. They've made a mistake by letting go of Micah Parsons in a way that you don't see that around the league. So Ed Policy, I think his role is to be a firm sounding board to the football side, but let the football people do what football people do. I think that's what you're seeing.
I think some fans are like, well, Goody's doing this to get a new contractor to save his job. And I think that's way overboard. And that's kind of what I gleaned from that answer. But it's something that's there, and it's something that at least has to be considered. Lastly, my hope now.
Well, hold on.
Go ahead.
Let's put this very simply.
Okay.
Brian Gutekunst is doing this to win a Super Bowl. I'm not going to say, GMs, coaches, they're people too. They have human emotion.
Yeah.
But that primary emotion is that they want to win. Trading for a Micah Parsons is to win. That's the reason Brian Gutekunst made this trade. He wants to win a Super Bowl.
I think that's very well stated. My hope, lastly, and I want your thoughts on this as I let you go. My hope is that this locker room is overjoyed and excited. Jordan Love, Reed, Wicks, Evan Williams, Edgerrin Cooper, kind of that generation of Packers players. I hope they're excited, and I hope over the next couple of days that excitement very quickly turns to, oh, we've been given an amazing opportunity. If we don't lock in and grow up and ramp up our sense of urgency, as Goody once said, we're going to squander this opportunity. Is that something that you're going to look for in practice, in commentary in the locker room? Because that's kind of what I'm thinking about now. How does this team take this addition and run with it? That's what I'm going to look at.
I think that was the overriding question about this entire roster coming into the season, coming into training camp, with or without Micah Parsons. That's the unknown. Is you have this combination of the youngest team in the NFL again, that got younger with Micah Parsons instead of Kenny Clark, but also with a ton of big game experience because they've been to the playoffs the past 2 years. They know that heartbreak. They've earned those scars. So when you have youth and big game experience, you are expecting that roster to take a jump. Will they? That's why they play the season. We'll have to find out. But that starts with Jordan Love entering his third year as a starting quarterback. He's got those scars. Can he take a jump now? Can he play up to that contract as a $55 million a year quarterback? Jordan Love on down, that youth has gained a ton of experience, and now is the time to see that experience really rise to the top.
That's the hope, urgency. I keep going back to those comments from Goody. Ryan, I appreciate it. Thank you for the time. Very fun to talk about this with you. I kept you a little longer, but go to the press conferences. We'll look forward to your coverage throughout this weekend and as we get towards the Lions game.
All right, take care.
Ryan Wood, Packers News USA Today. The Twitter is @ByRyanWood. Although he told me today, he's like, I think my Twitter got hacked. I'm like, all right, then I won't DM you any of my personal financial information. I think that's my thing today. And that's what I'm going to be thinking about going into the weekend. Excited to have Micah Parsons. Yeah. The trade compensation and the fit and his impact on all of his soon-to-be defensive teammates. How does the Jordan Love generation of players on this team respond and react? I think I think Brian Gutekunst is very clearly blasted a shot over the bow of all of these young players who have been a big part of bringing this team back to the postseason after missing it in Rodgers last year, right? They make it in Jordan Love's first year. Who are the big players there? Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks had that touchdown against the Packers. Someone like Tucker Kraft. The defensive side last year bolstered by some guys like Edgerrin Cooper and Evan Williams. That's the group, right? And I think Brian Gutekunst has a lot of belief in that group, wants to see that group continue to develop, wants a lot of those guys to be Packers into their next contract. That's the group. And I think there's a lot of belief internally, just as I think I and a lot of you have a lot of belief and excitement for those players. But I think where this offseason differs from last offseason is it was clearly stated in actions and maybe in roundabout terms, in words, that comment again from Goody, that presser from January, it was very clearly stated that, guys, we're not going to wait for you, though. Like, we want you to develop, and this is a draft and develop team, and we want to stay young and cheap and flexible, but we're not going to wait for you forever. I think they waited on everyone last year, which was smart. Let's not put anyone in the way of Watson, Dobbs, Reed, Wicks, Kraft. That's a room that doesn't need anybody else at this moment in time. Let's give them another year, see what happens. And it didn't quite happen the way that they needed to. And they gave the pass rush another year. Let's give Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Quay Walker another year together. And it was clear, yeah, we need to go get Matthew Golden, and we need to go get Micah Parsons. And we hope that that younger group, that Jordan Love generation of players, we hope they continue to develop and be huge parts of this thing moving forward, but we can't wait. The NFL is too competitive, and contracts and careers are too short, and the competition is too strong. We can't wait anymore. So I hope the excitement in the addition of Micah Parsons hits that locker room as, man, we got a great opportunity, but also as, like, I got to get on board or they're going to replace me. I got to lock in or we're going to squander this opportunity. I hope that's how this is being received in the locker room. All right, to your calls, because I've rambled long enough. We heard from Ryan Wood. We checked those boxes for the first half hour of the show. Now I want to hear from you. 608-321-1670. Straight to your phone calls on the other side.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. Fins up, by the way. It's Friday. Appreciate Ryan Wood and Lacrosse Beer House. My favorite conversations. Going to be joined by him every Friday all throughout the season. We'll be very lucky. Brian Gutekunst, Matt LaFleur, Micah Parsons going to start speaking here in about 15 minutes. Right to your phone calls. We got loaded phone lines. We can keep going on the Micah Parsons thing. I would imagine some people have Badger takes as well. So that's on the board. Last night, they won the opener 17-10, and Billy Edwards Jr. got hurt because that's what happens now in Madison. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, we got a real football game to talk about. How about it?
Yes, we do. It resembled something that looked like football last night, I think. I almost fell asleep watching on the couch, and I can only imagine how it felt in the stadium because on my couch, I have my food and my phone and things to entertain me at the stadium. I can't imagine that was a very lively building last night.
No, I don't think it was. Hey, real quick, before we jump into Badgers, on Adam Wood and the interview and kind of your commentary, I think you're spot on. I didn't really think about it until I listened to your intro, but the amount of pressure for the coaches, I think, is sneaky now, right? Everybody has rushed really quickly to crown Jeff Hafley. I don't get it. We talked about it extensively.
I like him. I'm not crowning. I'm not crowning. How often do you hear me say, "Well, he's going to be a head coach probably soon"? I don't know. I'm not crowning. I think he's very good though.
It's not you, but he was like, we were talking about he might be a head coach after the first season. I just don't get that. Anyways, he's got a lot of pressure because I tell you what, come week one, we can't see 30 points. No. And for everybody saying, well, Mike is going to take a couple of weeks to catch up to speed, he's a pass rusher. We saw Baker Mayfield go across the country in 24 hours and take a start at quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, it can't happen. For the Badgers, just quickly, Grant, I sighed so heavily. I wanted to love Jeff Grimes. I wanted to lean in. I wanted reliable, violent offense. But two things stuck out. Number one, completely out on him as soon as I saw the line formation. Right? When they came out in that gimmicky crap, I was out. I'm 100% out on Jeff Grimes until proven otherwise. Like, when I saw them line up in that stupid crap, right? Because you have all these guys coming from the portal. Yeah. Right? The biggest thing I saw last night from the offensive line. Everybody wants to talk about the offensive line. These guys don't know where to put their feet. There's all these gimmicky pre-snap things. So you have a defense in front of you. I don't know if you ever played offensive line, but you're sitting there and you're looking at the linebackers. You're trying to gauge, okay, who's the guy I'm supposed to get to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now your quarterback and your wide receivers are running all over the place behind the line. The defense is adjusting. You need to be able to comprehend and process that quickly and react at the snap of the ball and hit people with authority. And they were not moving anybody off the line of scrimmage. They were going against 260-pound defensive linemen, couldn't get a run over 10 yards. And I believe it's 100% team-based. You cannot run a gimmicky offense in the portal era These players need to be able to come in, learn the offense, and play the game with confidence in 3 to 6 months. And if your scheme is too complex for them to do that, that is you as a coach. It is your responsibility. I saw an offensive line with zero confidence, and I sighed the moment I saw that freaking line formation. So am I reading too much in that one moment? Yes.
That's fine.
But it stuck out to everybody the same way it did when we ran for it on 4th and 1 from the shotgun. That was my moment. I am out on Jeff Grimes until proven otherwise.
I love how you said Vagabond John. Appreciate it. I'm fully out until maybe I could change my mind. There's a couple things in there that I want to address. We got loaded phone lines, so I'm gonna put a pin in the Badgers O-line play and their offense and some things we saw last night until we don't have people waiting on hold, because I want to get to you. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, Jeremy, how's it going?
Great, Jeremy. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing amazing. So we didn't get a lot of time to touch into it yesterday, so I wanted to have a little more time with you today. But this Micah Parsons thing, obviously, huge deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 2 points. Jerry, I honestly believe to a degree that he believes that he did the thing that was best for his team. I think he just blew it. I think it's misguided and he's just wrong. You know, because if he really believed that, why didn't he do it back in March or April? Timing's terrible.
That's the thing. If you just look at this in a vacuum, Jeremy, it's probably fine. They're not going to win a Super Bowl with Micah, so trade him. The thing is it's not trade or sign. It's sign him a year and a half ago or trade him 6 months ago, right? Like they back themselves into a corner where even when they do the right thing, it's still not really the best thing.
Right. I'm just thinking he would have had like 30 teams trying to win the Micah Parsons sweepstakes, and he would have got the player he wanted or something close. But point 2, you had mentioned, I heard you earlier say, you know, that you really hope that the Packers players can lock in, right? And realize the significance. On the other side of that, I agree 100%. But on the other side of that, I hope Micah Parsons is bought in, because I think some of the excerpts of his letter and stuff, he didn't want to leave and this and that. If we need him to buy in, because if he does, he literally doesn't even set his duffel bag down in the locker room, and he's already number 10 all time Packers defenders with his numbers.
Yeah.
Like if he locks in and he buys into what the Packers are doing, I mean, he needs 30 sacks right now to pass Clay Matthews all time. Like he could go from being an elite player to legend in Green Bay.
No, I think he absolutely could, Jeremy. I mean, this is the thing. I appreciate the call. And we just got loaded phone lines again, same as last night. So I apologize a little bit to some of you guys, but that goes without saying that the rest of the locker room, I hope, recognize the moment. It goes without saying that Micah Parsons needs to realize, like, this is the team that gave up multiple picks, gave me a huge deal, and now it's time for me to deliver. I was texting with some people last night who, they're not Micah Parsons' best buddies, but people who work and cover the league. And I asked around, like, is the maturity thing, is there anything there? And what I heard back from people who've been on the show, not necessarily Packer people, but people who have been on, and they're like, look, Micah demands a ton, and he runs hot, and he demands a ton, and he gets pissed when that's not being given, when everyone around him isn't giving his best. But he is the first one and last one out. He's that guy too. I'm like, okay, so that's some good context of how Micah Parsons kind of ticks, because I don't know that he's always given the vibe that he's the most mature person in the world. All right, let's take a couple more calls. Wisco Sports Show, who's this?
Hey, Grant, I love how Vagabond John talks about the Badgers. What a terrible team. Fire fickle. What a great sleeping aid, though. I slept very well that night. Ew. Hey, you know what? So you and I, we're working men, right? I think your father retired. I think your dad's retired. What age did your dad retire? Can you say that? Or what is the U.S. retirement age? About 62, 65-ish?
Yeah, 60-ish fully. I don't know. He retired from his main thing, and then he kept doing some things in like part-time jobs and stuff.
Sure.
I don't remember.
Sure,
Sorry,
but I don't think he's running a company though, is he?
No, not to my knowledge. No.
Right. I think Jerry's business, I don't know what it's $4 billion or something it's worth. Yeah. Jerry Jones, 82 years old. We fleeced them, Grant. Hey, back in 1996, Grant, we lost to the Cowboys in an NFC Championship game. I don't know if you remember this. It was in Dallas. I went to the game, actually sat next to Ice Cube. And this game, I told myself, I will sell my soul to the devil to beat the Cowboys. I didn't sell my soul. We played the Cowboys again in 96, the year we won the Super Bowl. We lost on 7 field goals in Dallas.
Yeah.
This guy named Chris Boynell hit 7 field goals. Reggie got into it with Barry Switzer. I hated the Cowboys ever since. I know you don't hate the Cowboys, but this is payback from those days. You don't remember it. Us old timers remember it. We hate the Cowboys. This is revenge. We're getting the revenge back on the Cowboys and Jerry. It's awesome. And the one thing you did mention with Ryan Wood is that stopping the run. TJ Slayton, that's an underrated, sneaky loss. That's my concern. Stopping the run. And can Jordan Love make that step just to be good? Just be Brock Purdy. Be good.
Yeah.
Be good.
Be Jalen Hurts.
They're be fine.
Right. Be Jalen Hurts, where you have, you're maybe not the most perfect quarterback in the world. You're not Josh Allen, but you can put it together and make big plays in big moments when your team needs it. Right. That's a good starting point. So I was going to take another, you know what? Screw it. Let's take a call. We got a couple minutes here. I was going to say I don't want to run out of time, but I don't think we will. Let's go Sports Show. Who's this? Hello? Line 4?
Oh.
Yes.
Am I on?
Yes, you are the one. Who is this?
Heck yeah, let's do it. This is Chandler from Rapids, but residing in Nashville now.
What's up? Yeah, we've talked before. What's going on?
Oh yeah, not too much. I'm just bumming up the I-39 right now, coming home for the weekend.
Oh, not bad.
And big week in sports for Packers and Brewers and all this fun stuff. I figured I'd call in.
What's the Rapids community saying about the arrival of Micah Parsons?
Rapids community is buzzing, Grant. I can confirm. Everybody is very high on the Packers and the Micah Parsons acquisition.
Okay.
Rapids is fuming, and I'm ready to join the party.
Rapids is buzzing. Chandler, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think this was possible. Not because the Packers wouldn't be in on it, because I didn't think that Jerry Jones would give him up for 2 firsts and a 30-year-old nose tackle. And I love Kenny Clark, but I think that's the reason I'm walking around these last 2 days on cloud 9. It's like I can't believe the Cowboys let us do that.
Here's the thing. I got no disagreement with my buddy. He's a Patriots fan. He says the Packers that's about the maximum value the Cowboys could have got for Micah Parsons. I heavily disagree. Depending on the timing, I think the value could be different, but I think we absolutely stole Micah Parsons. He should have never been available. He's not a type of player that should ever be able to walk out your franchise's doors, and somehow the Packers have a horseshoe up their keister. So we're riding into the weekend hot. I did want to tell one story. So the Nashville Sounds, Brewers AAA affiliate.
Yeah.
Jackson Trio was in town this weekend. Made my way down to First Horizon Park, and I can confirm that Jackson Trio is one for the fans. I do now have an autographed Jackson Trio jersey.
Pretty cool. I bet there was a good crowd there to see him.
Definitely not. That is a Predator city. They are Volunteers fans. They are not baseball. They are not Titans football.
Yeah.
And I reap the benefits because nobody in that ballpark knows who Jackson Trio is.
So that's funny. I guess what I was thinking more of the Timber Rattlers Stadium. Like if Jackson Trio was playing up there, that place would be packed. I guess Nashville's a little bit different. Thank you, Chandler, and safe travels up to Rapids. I'm happy to hear the town is buzzing. I'm glad to hear that Central Wisconsin has some energy this weekend. A couple of thoughts on Jerry Jones and how maybe this should have been handled differently because he's getting crushed. A lot of it's fair, some of it's not. So I'll give you 2 minutes on that before we break at 5:00 next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, fins up. It's Friday. I'll give you some Badgers thoughts after the top of the 5 o'clock hour, after Zach's update. Get back to taking your calls as well, and maybe we'll just summarize what's going on with the Brewers so we feel like we're ready for the 3-day weekend. We talked to Chandler in Nashville, who's driving up to hometown in Rapids, he said. We never hear from the central part of the state. I like that. I shouldn't say never. You know, we got Rick and Spencer, but not the heaviest representation in that part of the state. So I get a kick out of that just because I get a kick out of such things. Talking about Jerry Jones and how he fleeced him. And look, the reaction today on sports television and radio has just been Jerry Jones is an idiot. How could he do this? Now, let me be clear. This result is not ideal for the Cowboys, but the battle was lost months ago or years ago with Parsons, actually. Right now, if you're talking about August 28th, yeah, trading him for 2 firsts and a 30-year-old nose tackle is not ideal. Signing him for $47 million isn't ideal because you could have got him way cheaper had you signed him a year and a half ago, which is what they should have done. And if they were never going to extend him, and it was clear it's like, we want Dak, we want CeeDee Lamb, we'd rather have those guys. Okay, well then trade him before the draft, right? Not just so you can get draft picks to help you here and now, but more teams can be involved because teams can get their cap sheet lined up. There's only a handful of teams that salary cap situations line up to be able to accommodate a player like this on a new deal right now. So I'm sympathetic a little bit to Jerry Jones just because I don't think trading Micah away is the most insane thing in the world. Waiting as long as they did, they backed themselves in a corner and then did what they thought is right. And it might be the right thing, but it was, 2 options that weren't ideal because this went on way too long, which is what the Cowboys are worst at. Hour 2 coming up next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Micah Parsons is a Green Bay Packer. That was the shocking news that broke yesterday afternoon. Going to be introduced to the media this afternoon. Parsons comes to town as a 4-time All-Pro and the owner of the richest contract for a non-quarterback in league history. 4 years, $188 million. Parsons racked up 52.5 sacks in his first 4 seasons in the league. It gives the Packers a true field tilter on their defense. The deal did cost the team its longest tenured player and defensive tackle Kenny Clark and their first-round picks the next 2 seasons. Turning to Wisconsin, they're 1-0 after taking care of Miami of Ohio last night. They did it despite losing their starting quarterback, Billy Edwards, to an apparent knee injury in the second quarter. Edwards has avoided serious injury, but his status for the next game is in doubt. In his place was sophomore transfer Danny O'Neal, who performed well enough in relief. Still, wide receiver Vinny Anthony said it was really the entire team and how they reacted to Edwards going down.
We really built like a team, and I think that really showed tonight. Like nobody really got down or flinched really. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody stayed poised, and we didn't hesitate or get nervous in the situation. I think everybody stayed together, and we knew what we had to do. We knew it was going to be a tough game. It was game 1. I mean, things happen. We'll learn from it and keep going from there.
Wisconsin will host Middle Tennessee State next Saturday.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Get insurance from a company who knows Wisconsin and cares about your community. You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer, but did you know they also offer competitive home and auto rates? Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more about products and discounts.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers are in Toronto. It's where they're going to open up a series against the Blue Jays tonight. It's a matchup of the two teams with best records in baseball. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
But this is not something that came together quickly. Ever since Micah Parsons publicly requested a trade back on August 1st, there had been calls from several different teams into the Cowboys about whether or not they would move Micah Parsons. Initially, it seemed as if people couldn't really tell whether Dallas was serious about this, but it escalated in recent days. This deal did not even get done between the Packers and Cowboys yesterday. This had been in place, from my understanding, along with Ian Rappaport and Jane Slater. This trade was locked in between the teams several days ago. This was all down to the contract and whether the Packers would do the type of deal that Micah Parsons would need to move on from the Cowboys after 4 years and head to Green Bay. They ended up doing that on a 4-year, $188 million contract extension. That's $47 million per year, by far making him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history.
We need to continue to ramp up our sense of urgency. The life of a player in the National Football League is not very long. We got a bunch of good guys in that locker room. We got a bunch of talented guys in that locker room. And I think it's time that we start competing for championships, right?
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
There's that comment. There's that damned comment, that remark that Goody made back in January that I beat to death for 2 months. Thought today, of all days, a good day to revisit it and put it back in the intro. Because to me, that kind of set the stage for the offseason, an offseason that featured them drafting a wide receiver in the first round for the first time in forever, right? An offseason that saw them spend big money to get a guard, spend big money to get a corner, and now trade 2 first-round picks and the longest tenured Packer, the last Ted Thompson player, Kenny Clark, for Micah Parsons. Now, Brian Gutekunst is speaking right now. I am recording it on my laptop. We're going to get to that at some point in this hour, and I know some of you might be thinking, press conference, I don't want to listen to a press conference. Oh, okay. So normally I'd be with you, although I think press conferences are important. There's useful information in there that can augment or supplement the conversations that we have. If there is ever a reason to listen and react to 8 minutes of Brian Gutekunst, it's at a special introductory press conference for a player that landed on a private jet just an hour or two ago. So I listened to a minute or two during Zach's update. It's good. Yeah, it's good. So you will like it. We'll get to that in probably the last half hour of the show. I'm not going to play the whole thing and just let it go. We'll stop and start and we can react, but it's a pretty cool thing going on at Lambeau today. I'll get back to your phone calls here in just a minute or two. To reset my take back from 5 o'clock before we talked with Ryan Wood. Great fit. I love the price that the Packers paid. It was always going to be 2 firsts. The question was, what else? And the what else was Kenny Clark. So you get to pair Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons together. The player that you give up was going on 30, coming off an injury, his least productive season in a while, and self-admitted not the best fit for their new defensive front compared to the old one. Right? So love it for all the reasons we loved it yesterday. It's going to make all the players around him better. What I am starting to turn my eye towards now, and what I'm going to take with me into this weekend, and what I told you back at 4 o'clock, I want to see how the rest of the team reacts. Specifically, let's say the Jordan Love generation of players. Romeo Doubs, Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed, maybe first and foremost. I think Jaden Reed and his performance this year is going to be such a massive bellwether for the progress or lack thereof that group of players has taken. Dontavian Wicks. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Edgerrin Cooper, Evan Williams, Devontae Wyatt, Lucas Van Ness. I hope all of those players who probably feel like it's Christmas morning, oh my God, the team drafted a wide receiver in the first round. We signed these free agents. Now Micah Parsons is here. I hope that group of players very quickly transitions from being excited to, if we don't lock in now, I mean, when is it ever going to happen? We've been given this opportunity on a golden platter to really do something meaningful. Now's the time, Monday through Friday, to lock in. Now's the time to cut out the pre-snap penalties and the drops and the silly, stupid mistakes. And now it's time to be a grown-up, bona fide football team with a chance of actually accomplishing something and doing something historic. I hope that's where that group goes in short order, because they have to host the Lions a week from Sunday. And that game it's going to be a battle. I shared that soundbite with you yesterday from Jordan Love. They've been banged up. I don't know that they're all going to be locked and loaded and ready to go week 1. That game, even though Detroit has 2 new coordinators, new linemen, That's going to be a very, very tough game to win in a game that they need to win because they haven't beat Detroit at Lambeau since 2021. All right, back to your phone call. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Darnell.
Hey, Darnell, what's up?
Chump. Hey, listen, is it technically a free phone Friday? I know this is pretty Packers-centric.
Well, what do you want to talk Badgers?
I mean, it's going to end up being Brewers, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Let it rip.
All right, so as you know, I'm kind of working my way through the Bible during the summer here. Mm-hmm. I'm onto the book of Job.
Oh, good one.
Which, if you don't know, it's a guy, he had everything, super rich guy, lots of kids, and then lost everything because Satan was like, nah, let's test this guy. So he loses all his kids, then he loses all his riches, and then he loses even his health, and he becomes sickly and with leprosy and all that stuff. And then all he has to do is like forsake God, right? And then he'll get everything back, but he never does, right?
Yeah.
So I like to do parallels. It's a big thing. It's just how my brain kind of processes information.
Yeah.
So I look at it as kind of the Brewers season here. You know, we were given everything. We were given a 14-game win streak and an 11-game win streak and an 8-game win streak, all in the span of 2.5 months. And then it was all taken away from us here in the last couple of weeks, where they just kind of reverted back to April and early May baseball, and just kind of that's how things happen in the MLB.
That's baseball.
But what people don't realize, or maybe if you don't know the book, then at the end of everything, Job stays faithful to God. He doesn't forsake him, just like we should not be forsaking the Brewers for losing a couple of games here.
Okay.
And he's given 10 times more than he ever had before at the end, which I would say that's like, if you want to draw parallels, that's a World Series appearance at a bare minimum for me. So
yeah, and for me as well. I mean,
I don't know. It's you know, just saying that things kind of happen. You know, history repeats itself. So. Well, you know, that happened 3,000 years ago. Maybe this happens now.
Thank you, Darnell. It's a good book, by the way. The Bible, in the biggest of big pictures, yes, but specifically the book of Job, very interesting one. I thought you were going to compare Job to the Brewers franchise in general, and I'd say that's a fine comparison, except Job had something at the beginning. The Brewers have never won dick. So not a perfect, although the season, I like the parallel, and I like the parable. I actually wasn't that mad about the Game 3 loss to the Diamondbacks. Ashby and Fetty, and I thought the pitching staff did a really good job. And if you look back at the deservo meter, like which team, if you simulate that game a bunch, the Brewers should have won Game 3. They didn't. Sometimes that is baseball. Even me, the most cynical person when it comes to that school of thought, can admit that. Yesterday pissed the living hell out of me because I had to watch Jose Quintana come out and fumble all over him. He had nothing. He had nothing. On a day where results were kind of secondary, man. Like, you don't need to be awesome, but you need to eat at least 5. And he couldn't get out of the 4th. Like, I just expect better from my veteran. The rest of the team was fine, although they stranded a bunch of runners in scoring position. A little too much Lockridge, a little too much Mona, a little too much Danny Jansen. That move still confounds me. He's from Appleton, and he's a Cubs fan, and the clubhouse loved Eric Haas. So you get Churio back in there, get Yelich back in there. We just need to cut out a couple of those at-bats every game. Also, I think Andrew Vaughn, his swing decisions slip here and there, but he's mostly been pounding the ball pretty hard. It's just been right at people. I can admit that. I can say that. I don't want to hear it from the Brewers broadcast, because if you listen to some of the broadcasts, it's not some of the broadcasters. I love all the broadcasters. Some of the broadcasts get so bent up in, oh my God, I mean, the Brewers are so unlucky. I heard Rocky yesterday, Quintana walks the bases loaded for like the 2nd straight inning, by the way. And one of their hitters, I don't remember who it was, just fisted a little pop-up to right field on a good pitch. Lucky piece of hitting, drops in for 2 runs. And I heard Rock go, well, I don't know what you're supposed to do. I don't know, Rock. I'd start with not walking the bases loaded. I hate the woe is me batted ball luck stuff. I hate it. And I hate that I get beaten over the head with it on the broadcast. So when I cite batted ball luck, you know it's coming from a genuine, accurate place. That's all I'm saying. All right, your calls on whatever. We can pick at the Badgers. We can pick at Micah Parsons. Brian Gutekunst speaking right now. I'll bring you some of that later on in the show before 6 o'clock. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's that?
This is Pete from Monona's alter ego.
Yeah, Dave from Monona. Yes, Dave. How are you?
Hey, Brewer fans, what the hell are you worried about? You can lose 12 in a row because my Cubs just stink.
Yeah, they got swept.
So you're not going to get caught. So you won the division. Just stop whining and complaining. Darnell the chimp. It doesn't matter. You can compare him to Jobin, compare him to whoever. I mean, they won the division. They're fighting for the best record. What I want to see, the perfect world, is when if Cubs win the wild card.
Yep.
They will. And the one question I got to find out: do they reseed? 4 plays 5, 3 plays 6. If 6 beats 3. So anyway, but that's the world I wanted. The Cubs would then play Milwaukee. Can you imagine that ticket sales? That's not what I call them. I could care less.
Okay.
Packers. I kind of relate Brian Goody to Jed Hoyer. Earlier this year, Hoyer's contract has not been extended. He goes out and pulls a major deal. They're getting ready to empty a load for a trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
He gets his contract extended, and then he goes to hell and pees in his pants. I guarantee if Goody would have got his contract extended prior to this trade would have never happened. He's doing it because he realizes if he doesn't pull up a big trade now, he's not getting extended. And here's the reason why. The only thing I'm worried about, I don't worry about the players. We still got the worst football coach in our division.
You're worried about
Matt.
Matt.
Doesn't know how to handle.
You're worried about Matt LeFlunk.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to until he learns how to handle the 2-minute warning clock management, games after buys.
Yeah.
Oh my God, playoff games. I mean, you can have all the talent in the world, which they're going to be Super Bowl caliber as long as they have injuries. They're going to be there as long as Matt, if he just stays out of his way. I told you what would happen. I would love for somebody up in the booth with 2 minutes to go in the half, first 2 minutes of the third quarter, and the last 2 minutes to put a muzzle on him and turn his microphone off.
So, look, there's some real Matt LaFleur concerns. Dave, I'm going to stop you there, not because I want to get rid of you, but because you made so many good points. I don't want you to cover them up with more good points. There's so many things that I really love about Matt LaFleur. I think he regressed last season. It didn't even regress. Maybe he just made some bad calls. Maybe just some bad luck where some things didn't go his way. Probably a mix of all of those things. But I thought he regressed from clock management perspective, timeout usage perspective, decisions to kick or to go. I just thought he had a bad year in that regard last year. Schematically, when the offense isn't scoring and they're not operating and performing at a high enough level for folks, well, the play calling sucks. I don't even know if that's true. I think the play calls in lots of instances were fine. They weren't executed well. So I understand skepticism and concern from Packers fans on Matt LaFleur. I don't think that he's a crappy coach. I don't think he's one of the worst coaches. I think he's a very good coach for which some questions are fine. And when I describe you these situations, these are the situations you need to own to win playoff games, multiple playoff games. It's the fourth quarter. You're up by 3. The defense just forced to stop. There's 6 minutes left, and you're about to receive a punt. Can you put together a drive to go win the friggin' game? Like, those are the moments. And Matt LaFleur coaching and managing in those moments is a big part of it, as much as it is Jordan Love executing and hitting his guys and operating in those moments. So Matt LaFleur is a big part of that too. So I'm with you. Like, that stuff matters too. Guys, please do not walk away from this show thinking, well, did you hear how excited Grant is about Micah Parsons? He just think that Micah Parsons is just going to fix all the problems and they're just going to waltz to the Super Bowl. No. Still all of the same questions, especially on offense, apply. And I had more questions about the offense than the defense before Micah Parsons got here. So, no, I'm not saying everything is perfect and I don't have questions. And now that Jordan Love, everything's just going to be, there's some things that need to be proven and little incremental things that need to be fixed across the board by so many guys. But I think it's very possible and it's very doable. But I understand the skepticism. I understand the questions. 608-321-1670. Keep them coming. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Louie in Eau Claire.
I knew it. What's going on, Louie? I could recognize the hum of your car.
Ford Maverick, huh?
Hell yeah.
No, I'm kind of smirking at Dave and Monona, but I'm kind of agreeing with him here today in that I do think that no matter what, I think Goody's kind of So both Goody and LaFleur, they have 2 years left on their contract, and Ed Policy said he doesn't believe in lame duck years.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of this season, no matter what, they're either going to be gone or get a contract extension unless Ed Policy changes his mind. That's what I take out of that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't buy into that. I talked about that with Ryan Wood in the first hour, and I'm going to go pull that audio right now just to reiterate the answer. Because I asked him, what role do you think Ed Policy and the contracts played? And he poo-pooed it. I think it's a real thing, Louis, but I think the 90% of the motivation behind this move is I think this team is about ready to win a Super Bowl, and I want to do anything I can to assist in that.
I guess my question is, at the end of the season, so Goody can say, I've handed the coach here a top 5 to 7 roster with Parsons in the fold here now.
Yes.
So at the end of the season, the Packers don't have to win the Super Bowl, but if they don't look like a team that's capable of it or have the look of a Super Bowl winning team, let's say they, you go to Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game and lose 27-23, nobody's going to fault you for that. But let's say the Packers are relatively healthy this year. They come away, they have a tough schedule. Let's say they win 11 games. They're the first wild card. They go and beat Tampa Bay and then go lose to the Rams and 49ers,
Sure.
27-16. And they never really have the look of one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league. Are you extending Matt LaFleur?
Well, I think at this moment in time, it would be pretty difficult for Brian Gutekunst to say anything other than, look what I gave him. You know what I mean? Like, especially on defense,
right,
with, I think, now Pro Bowlers, a free agent at safety, a trade acquisition at edge rusher, and then the drafting of Edgerrin Cooper. And on offense, it's just a dearth, a plethora. I think dearth is the opposite of a plethora. A plethora of young pass catchers, a tight end, a stud running back, a depot line. And then when that wasn't quite good enough, I went to go get Matthew Golden, who seems like he has the goods. Like, I don't know how Brian Gutekunst could look his boss in the eye at the end of this year and say anything other than, I feel like I did a pretty good job. You know what I mean?
Right. So I say Gutekunst is kind of covered, or like you said, he's got cover to say, listen, this is what I handed the guy. There's really no glaring holes. Sure, the secondary could be a little bit better. Every team with the constraints of a 53-man roster and the salary cap are going to have some weak points.
Yep.
So to me, it puts LaFleur on the spot where if you don't deliver, a top 3, either a Super Bowl or have the look of a Super Bowl kind of team, what are we doing here? And then unless you think Ed Policy's mindset is, well, barring a disastrous season where the bottom falls out and you win 4 or 5 games, we're going to give you an extension, but I just don't want to jump the gun and be the new guy looking like I'm glad handing and handing out contracts. Do you think that he's actually under kind of an examination, or Ed Policy's kind of in a mode of evaluating, or do you think it's more of a fait accompli?
I would imagine at this moment in time, Louis, I would bet on both of these guys getting extended. Just because he didn't do it right away doesn't mean he's standing by the office door with an axe in his hand every day. I think that has been overplayed slightly. I'm not in the building. I'm not talking to these guys. So when Matt Schneidman goes on the McAfee show and says Ed Policy is very much unsure on whether or not he wants to continue with these two guys, I can't then say Matt Schneidman's wrong and here's why, because I don't know. I'm not in that building, right? But much more informed Packers people have commented on this, much more informed than me. It just would seem very un-Packers-ish. And again, Ed Policy is cut from the same cloth that the last 4 guys have been cut from, and he's using the same 3-ring binder. I don't think he's looking to blow out either one of these guys. I just don't think he was going to hand out a freebie extension when arriving. And I don't think Brian Gutekunst made this move only to save his ass or to get an extension. And I'll play you Ryan Wood's commentary on that coming back. We're going to hear from Brian Gutekunst in the last half hour of the show. There's 3 of you on hold. I promise I'll get you right on the other side of this 3-minute break. I got to get this in.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Well, if you listen to everything Ed Policy has said since being elevated into that new top man role, and he had a meet and greet with me and a few of the other beat writers this summer. We had a long chat with him. Everything he has said, he has echoed Mark Murphy. What has been Mark Murphy's role? Mark Murphy's primary focus was always the business side. He did what Bob Harlan did. He learned directly from Bob Harlan's role, and that was leave the football decisions to the football people. I don't think Ed Policy is any different when it comes to that. And I think, the Dallas Cowboys just shows you what happens when you don't leave football decisions to the football people.
Yeah.
You make mistakes. And I think that's bottom line. That's what the Dallas Cowboys have done here. They've made a mistake by letting go of Micah Parsons in a way that you don't see that around the league. So Ed Policy, I think his role is to be a firm sounding board to the football side, but let the football people do what football people do. I think that's what you're seeing.
There you go. That's Ryan Wood from the first hour. If you missed that conversation, we talked all about the Micah Parsons deal and the politics behind it and how it came to be, but also the football side, right? How is he going to fit in with certain teammates and certain roles and parts of the defense, in the absence of Kenny Clark, which can't be understated as well. So that was an hour number one. Catch it in the podcast if you missed it. But that's specifically how Goody's situation, the new boss and his contract, maybe played a role. I don't think it's played nearly as big of a role as a lot of Packers fans are saying, but it's an interesting storyline, and it's a part of it, no doubt. We're going to hear from Brian Gutekunst on the other side. I'm going to take a call here and then give you some Badgers thoughts on last night before we trend towards our 5:35 break, and we'll hear at least the opening remarks from Brian Gutekunst before we wrap up the show for the long weekend. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Eric on I-90.
Eric on I-90. Good evening, Eric.
Good evening, Grant. I listened to you live yesterday.
Right at the beginning?
I don't normally listen to the show, so I don't know if I could have witnessed such joy without seeing a person, just hearing them. You had a lot of joy. A lot of joy.
Well, it's probably the biggest move that my team has made since Bill Clinton was president. Like these are the types of things you get 2 or 3 or 4 of these moves with your teams in your entire lifetime, Eric. Maybe it's pretty cool.
I'm going to tell you the real reason for that joy, Grant.
Okay.
As an expert.
Okay.
You, whether you want to admit it or not, were sitting around wondering whether Green Bay can even compete in the North.
Well, I haven't exactly been a Packers fanboy this summer. There's been a lot of skepticism and a lot of we haven't been negative, Eric, but I don't think we've been waving pom-poms on this program this summer.
No, you haven't. I'm just saying. That's what I'm saying. Is you weren't 100% sure, and you needed that boost in the arm, and you got it.
I think the Packers needed it. I mean, the Vikings are good, man. They're well-run. They got a lot of talent. The Lions, the Eagles, the Rams. And what I think, Eric, is, if I may be frank, I think a lot of Packers fans have, been a little privileged and have enjoyed so much success that I think a lot of Packers fans walk around and operate like, oh, well, we didn't do it last year, but, well, for sure this year. It's just the worm's always going to turn and the dice is always going to land on our number because we're the Green Bay Packers. And it doesn't work that way, even though it's felt like that our whole life because we have, two of the greatest quarterbacks ever play the game who played for our team back to back.
Right. And I can answer Louis' question for you.
Okay.
Matt LaFleur is on the hot seat.
You think so?
He's on the hot seat, and he can feel it. I think Matt LaFleur is sick of it. He probably needed Micah Parsons more than anybody. He's sick of it. He's sick of the same old questions. You can see it in his face. He's about done. And if they don't make it this year, he's gonna resign. He's gonna resign.
Well, I don't know. So it's funny. Anytime the hot seat conversations come up, Eric, I got a couple other calls I want to get to. Have a great Labor Day weekend, my friend. Thank you for listening and calling always. The hot seat, the idea of the hot seat is always so funny because it's the NFL. There's no coach who could lose games and have bad seasons and still be fine. That doesn't exist. It's a league with so much urgency. No, I don't think he's on the hot seat. I think Zach Taylor's on the hot seat. Like if he misses the playoffs, he might get canned. I think there are coaches where it's like you need to make the playoffs or something equivalent or something a little better or you're out. I think there are very few coaches like that, but there's a lot of coaches in the next tier where it's like, we need to see this thing trending in the right direction, not in the wrong direction. And that might not ultimately result in a firing at the end of the year. So I don't think Matt LaFleur's on the hot seat because I'm not sure that there are any. I think Dable's on the hot seat. Zach Taylor's on the hot seat. There's probably one more, but I'm telling you, it's not a big list. The next tier, there are a lot of guys where it's like, let's see how this thing trends. And you could end up on the hot seat in short order. Yeah, I think Matt LaFleur getting a stud pass rusher, yeah, I'd be pretty happy too. Like a guy who can just go clobber the opponent quarterback so I don't have to sit there on the sideline watching Sam Darnold with an hour back there in the pocket or Jalen Hurts like that first touchdown in the playoff game. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Dean.
Hey, Dean, what's up?
I was thinking after Eric's call when the Brewers got Lorenzo Cain and Christian Yelich. I remember where I was. I was in an ice cream shop up in Winona, and it was just glee. So I ignored my wife that day while she ate her ice cream. I just was reading all the news. Like I imagine being a Vikings fan, that's just how you felt when you heard the news that Eric was referencing.
Yeah, I was sitting on the floor of my college house playing Call of Duty.
Oh yeah.
I liked it. And the reason I was sitting there, Dean, I appreciate it. I got two more callers that I'm going to get to before our break and before Goody. Is in college, it's such a social environment. I could sit in my dark room and play Call of Duty, or I could bring the TV out into the living room, and my friend Gunnar would sit behind me on his couch, and I'd sit on the floor, and he'd hype me up. It was World War II. It was mostly a pretty crummy game, but I feel like my quickscoping, at least for that game in that era, was okay, and it made for some compelling gameplay. The camaraderie was there, and I remember reading the Lorenzo Cain and Christian Yelich tweets and thinking, oh my God, you can't give up Lewis Brinson. Turns out you could. It worked out okay. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, this is Tyson from Madison.
Hey, Tyson. What's up?
Not much. Hey, I was your first caller after you announced the great news yesterday.
You were, and I'll never forget it, Tyson. That was the next thing I was going to say.
It might be the most famous thing I've done in 2025, so I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
The captain of the Jeff Hafley fan club, because I can't be more excited about what kind of offense or defense are we going to roll out here with a Swiss Army knife weapon like Micah Parsons. I mean, really, like, this changes the dynamic of every linebacker and every defensive end on the entire team.
Yeah, and I think for Xavier McKinney, that probably creates more opportunities for him. He's beholden for balls coming his way. You know what I mean? I think that's a little bit more likely to happen when Micah Parsons is bearing down on opponent quarterbacks.
And just real quick to comment on one of the previous callers' concern for Matt LaFleur, I don't think it's completely unfounded. I mean, if you think about the momentum that Matt LaFleur had coming out of the Malik Willis experience early season last year, and then how we managed that momentum through the end of the year, it definitely gives you some concern, and it felt like we went into a shell a little bit. So
yeah,
this is the year that I feel like if there's more to this Matt LaFleur, flower that's going to bloom, you better let it go this year. Nothing should be saved. And I'm very excited to know that it's not going to be defense that's going to be the reason if we don't get it done. And then Matt is on the hot seat.
Well,
so, really.
You're right. Yeah. Tyson, you're absolutely right. I'm going to stop you right there. Have a great weekend. Packers fans, we're not going to come away. I was already not going to come away from this year because I'm ahead of most. I believe in this defense more than most. We're not coming out of this year saying you got to fix the defense. You got to fix the defense. This is the offense's time to step up and control games and win games down the stretch. You're absolutely right. And I felt that way before they got Micah Parsons. Now I feel a little bit better about it, and I consider their ceiling to be higher for sure. Here, one more call, and then we're going to go to break and get to Goody on the other side. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Mike in Eau Claire.
What's up, Mike? You sound over the moon. Calm down. I don't want you to have a heart attack.
I'm good.
Okay.
I already had one 8 years ago.
Okay. Well, you're all right.
I take medication. Okay. I'm good.
I'm just looking out for you.
But Jim McMahon, Trent Dilfer, and Brad Johnson are three of the worst quarterbacks that ever played the game, and they all won Super Bowls because of their defense.
Yeah.
And we have one of the best offenses to go with it. We don't have a crap offense.
Yeah.
That we have to support with our defense.
I think this offense has some improvements to make, but it's like little things on the edges. I think the base is built. I just think they need to smooth some things out and grow up a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with the grow up a little bit. Watson he'll come back, but Dobbs, who wears his big helmet, fine. He needs that for concussion.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I'm really happy with Golden's progress so far, and I like that. And Josh Jacobs might run for two. He's one of the top 4 or 5 running backs in the league.
Yeah.
I mean,
I almost forget about him.
And we have
so
Emmanuel Wilson too.
We do have Emmanuel Wilson.
We have other running backs that are good also. Marshawn Lloyd is an afterthought now. I loved him. I wanted him to be good, but he's an afterthought now, and we still are good at running back without him. Our offensive line is great. And like you said, the 3 levels. We got a star, an all-pro at linebacker, and defense. I think our linebackers I'm counting Micah Parsons as a D lineman.
Yeah.
Well, not as a linebacker.
Well, and that's how we talk about him, Mike. I appreciate it. I'm just up against it. Gone are the days of an outside linebacker. You're an edge rusher, or you're an off-ball linebacker, right? Or a D end, but D ends and edge rushers, we've kind of, the categorization has become a little. Micah Parsons can line up inside, outside. So can Rashawn Gary. They got a lot of versatility. Stopping the run's going to be a thing they'll have to piece together and figure out. But okay, Jeff Hafley, what? Cry me a river. You don't have TJ Slayton. Sorry, you have Micah Parsons, Edgerrin Cooper, and Xavier McKinney. Figure it out, and I think he will. But I don't know. Don't cry me a river. Don't cry on my shoulder because TJ Slayton's not here. You sure? Yeah, I'd love to have TJ Slayton. I'll take Micah Parsons and this collection of players any day of the week. We'll hear a little bit from Brian Gutekunst coming up next. And then maybe in the final hour of the show, I'll give you some Badgers thoughts just on the way out the door, just so we kind of cover all of our bases today. But Brian Gutekunst, his opening remarks, he took the podium about 35 minutes ago. I'll give that to you on the other side.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. Going to hear from Brian Gutekunst here in a minute. I am downloading his press conference audio as we speak. Matt LaFleur's at the podium right now. He has got some kind of grin on his face. He's complaining about him being a curmudgeon and a whiner yesterday. I will not have that same complaint today. Micah Parsons is going to be introduced in the next 10, 15 minutes, maybe at 6 o'clock. We won't get to that tonight, but I can give you the opening remarks of Brian Gutekunst. This is, I'm not trying to fanboy. What we're seeing today, this introductory press conference, the private jet coming in, right? All of the TVs in Lambeau, welcome Micah, his family being there. This is not something that you do for Nate Hobbs. With all due, this isn't even something you do with Julius Peppers. Like, this is a once in a 25 years type of thing. And I guess I just want to hammer home that importance, as Ryan Wood did and as Mike Clemens did earlier today. So let's listen to a little bit of Brian Gutekunst here at the beginning. And I think there's some like filler music. So we'll just start with the opening remarks and we can pause it and react as we go. But this is, if there's ever a press conference that you would want to listen to, it would be this one. So here's Brian Gutekunst from about 45 minutes ago.
Thanking Kenny Clark for the 9 years he was with us. What an exceptional player, exceptional person. Really hard to see him go, but there was really no way around it. That was the one thing that was going to be part of this trade no matter what for them. I also want to thank the Dallas Cowboys just for their professionalism through this and our organization as well. I just think some of the times these things are very hard to keep, under wraps as you work through them. And I think, again, very, very thankful for them. And then our guys as well as we navigated through this. So with that, I'll take questions.
You mentioned Kenny Clark, the first round picks. Obviously,
Ryan,
what does bringing in Micah signify for this team?
No, I think, obviously a player like Micah and is very unique and very rare is it that they're available, right? So as this kind of came together, it was just one of those things where it was a unique opportunity for us, and it was going to cost, right? There was going to be some expense with it, but we just kind of thought it was the best thing for our football team, and we're excited to get him. We're excited to get him out there and get him with our team so that he can get up to speed as fast as possible.
Can I just pause and say something completely self-congratulating? Can I just say that I am very happy with the way that I handled these last couple of days, and I'm very happy with the way that we handled these last couple of days, because I can't listen to every sports talk radio show in the state of Wisconsin, mostly because I don't have enough time in the day, but also because there's too friggin' many. There's too, we don't need as many as we have. I would like to thin the herd. So I can't keep track of all of them, but I keep tabs. And a lot of shows, Ricky is reporting what? There's somebody on the internet saying that this is going, what? No. The Packers will never do that. That'll never happen. The Cowboys would never trade him. The Packers would never do that. It's not like them. And I spent this week, again, this is, self-congratulatory, whatever. I spent this week saying a lot of the things that we're hearing today, which is like, man, the cost is exorbitant. And this is something that's pretty rare. But when you have an opportunity to get a player like this at his position, at his age, like, this is what I've been saying. There's been so many Packers fans, and I talked about it with Ryan, where it's like, well, they'll never do that. That's unlike them. Well, yeah, they never do deals like this because deals like this never happen for anybody. Now, the Rams had a nice little run there, but there's not a Micah Parsons that goes on the block every year. Players like this might come available. And again, Jalen Ramsey was a little bit older. Well, actually, I'm not sure about Jalen Ramsey, but so let's set him to the side. He might have been looking for his first extension. I don't remember. But Matthew Stafford was older. Von Miller, that was a big part of that, was older, right? Teams that have gone all in, older. Micah Parsons is 26. He's entering his prime. These players are never available. So through all the skepticism and the dismissal by many sports talkers this week, I said, you know what? I wouldn't bet my mortgage on it. But guys, if it was ever going to happen, this is the type of player and situation that would make it happen. And you're hearing it now from Brian Gutekunst. So again, I don't know why I'm bragging to you. Maybe this is more for me than you. This is probably something I just should have told to myself in the car driving home tonight, but whatever.
Obviously, you weren't here when they signed Reggie, but I'm sure Ron was here, obviously. Did they ever talk to you about what that meant? And is there maybe some parallels with Micah being?
Yeah, I don't think there's really any parallels to that at all. I mean, again, I wasn't here, so it's hard for me really to compare that. Different time. I think the Packers organization was in a different space at that time. So I can't really comment on that. Mike is his own man and he's going to forge his own path here. But I think he's going to be a really, really good fit for our locker room, really good fit for our team. But it was a little before me.
What do you think he can give you guys in 9 days when you play a game?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to see, right? He's just getting through the physical right now, and we'll have a chance to get him out there Monday and see where he's at. Certainly, I think we're hopeful that he'll help us in some form or fashion in the opener. But I do think it's on us to be smart and make sure that he's ready to go.
So it's funny because the only comp recently that we have for this deal is Khalil Mack, and I think it was 7 years ago. That was in 2018. So how many years ago? 7 years ago, 7, 8, 6 years ago. It was half decade or more than a half decade ago. Put it that way. And he arrived to the Bears with these same kind of questions. Like, you didn't even know if he's going to be able to play week 1. And then you remember he did play week 1. He made a bunch of massive plays. And then Aaron Rodgers and the Packers came back in the second half. We could be setting the scene for some potentially pretty compelling theater, Packers-Lions week 1, if Micah Parsons is able to play just a little bit. I hope he shows up in shape, and I hope he shows up in nails, because this deal is also reminding me of Damian Lillard in that. Well, this is a home run. This is a slam dunk. And then with all due, Damian Lillard showed up out of shape and depressed because he left his family per his request because he wanted to trade. So I hope we get more of the Khalil Mack thing and less, again, all due to Damian Lillard, less of the Damian Lillard thing.
Okay. These talks were happening at this time of the year, not like before the draft or something like that. How did that kind of impact the negotiations, and did it help your cause a little bit, do you think?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Not really sure. I mean, I think obviously when the draft's coming up, there's a deadline, and that certainly sometimes can spark things, so to speak. So this one was probably a little bit more drawn out than maybe right before the draft or in those days. So, but again, very thankful to the Jones family, Jerry and Steven, for the professionalism as we work through it.
I imagine Jeff Hafley's pretty happy, but as far as the players and the building, what type level of excitement?
This is good. Let's get into this.
Yeah, no, I certainly when you bring in a player like this, I hope there's some excitement. There's probably some bittersweet things going on as well, because Kenny was such a well-liked guy in our locker room. But these guys want to win, and they know this is an opportunity to help us to win football games. So I'm sure there'll be some excitement. The timing was a little bit different because they were kind of out of here before all this kind of went down. So. But they'll all come back on Sunday night, be here Monday for practice. And again, I think hopefully they're going to be focused and it's more business-like approach. But again, Micah's production in his first 4 years in the league, sure, he's very well known. So I think our guys will understand why we did this.
So let me give you some. I referenced this earlier on in the show. That's probably enough for Goody. First couple questions and answers. That's good enough for me. And you have all weekend. They're all posted on the Packers YouTube if you want to go watch it. If I had another 2 hours, we'd hear a little bit more from Goody, a little from LaFleur, and a little bit from Micah Parsons. I texted someone who knows a lot of people around the league, someone who's been on our network before. I'm not going to put him on blast, although this isn't exactly insider information. This was just interesting information. So I was texting someone about this last night, and I don't remember how this came up. I basically said, he's going to make Gary and Wyatt so much better. This is a really fun trade. And he said, so much. He's probably the best rusher in Myles Garrett in the league, loves ball too, great guy to have in the locker room. And I said, so there's not a maturity question mark for you? Because I've always felt like, I don't know, he's got the podcast, and then he was laying on the trainer's table last week, which I guess ultimately accomplished his goal. He got traded. And the response to that was a little, because he doesn't always voice displeasure in a helpful manner, but he's the kind of guy you need on a championship team IMO. Holds himself and everyone to a very high standard, gets bitchy when that's not met, but he lives it. All right, I can live with that. Like, I'll take that. Like, if you're going to have a head case, and I don't even want to use the word head case, but if you're going to deal with a unique personality, that's the type of personality I want. Yeah, a little odd and has a really high standard and will get on teammates, but he will live it first and foremost. Great, sign me up, right? I'm in. We can talk about this, put our closing remarks on the Micah Parsons festivities for the day. I'll give you some Badgers takes as we get out the door. And, of course, we'll listen to some Jimmy Buffett because it's Friday, and not just Friday, but it's Labor Day weekend. So it's even extra Buffety. I wish he hadn't died on Labor Day weekend, but maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe that's good symmetry. I don't know. We'll wrap up the show next. Whatever.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Zone Blitz pregame bash is back. Every Wisconsin home game 2 hours before kickoff at the Blue Moon Bar and Grill. And this year, do I have something special for you? It's a perfect snack for game day or any day. Wenzel's Farm Pro Snack Sticks. Come see me and I'll hand you 16 grams of protein to fuel you through the day. Wenzel's Farm offers that and so much more, crafted in small batches using premium cuts of meat, perfectly seasoned, and naturally hardwood smoked. Check out wenzelsfarm.com. Made by pros for pros.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's Labor Day weekend.
Now, I would argue that this is the best Fins Up Friday of the year. Labor Day weekend always kind of been a Jimmy Buffett type holiday. Then a couple years ago, he had to friggin' die on Labor Day weekend, which, again, is sad, but also I think it's some nice symmetry. So very excited for the 3-day weekend. Sorry I can't bring you more of the Packers coverage. The press conferences were pushed back a little bit. They were supposed to start at like 1 today, and I think Micah Parsons' plane was delayed, so they pushed it back. So Goody spoke at 5. LaFleur, if he's not done speaking, he's about to be done speaking. And Micah Parsons will go next. So you can watch that on their YouTube page. I would follow Mike Clemens. He's posting updates as well. He'll give you those reports. Otherwise, we'll be back on Tuesday to talk about it all, but I think some of you are going to want to dig into it before then. Couple Badgers thoughts. Vagabond John called earlier with a couple of complaints. Look, Billy Edwards Jr. got hurt, so we're already grading their performance on a curve, which has been the case the last 2 years, which is a huge bummer. I was less interested in Billy Edwards, who didn't look all that sharp, by the way. He had Vinny Anthony a couple of times deep and missed him, and it's not like Billy Edwards Jr. is actually lighting it up. I was more interested in seeing the Jeff Grimes offense and their returned emphasis on O-line and running the ball. I thought the running backs looked explosive. They had to do a lot of work because a lot of their yards, it felt like to my eye and to my mind's eye watching at home on the TV, it felt like a lot of those yards were after contact, but you could see the burst and the explosion with Jones and Dupree. I was really underwhelmed by their lack of push and physicality up front. In fact, I think they were handled just about as much as they handled. And their left tackle looked like absolute dog water. Like, that's a non-starter the rest of the year. Davis Heinzen, if he looks like that, he gave up a bunch of pressures, couple of sacks. Like, that's not gonna play in the Big Ten. If he can't play against Miami, Ohio, it's not gonna play in the Big Ten. So that's a huge concern. I understand their quarterback got hurt, and good, their defense looked great. The number one thing on my list last night was, can the offense impose their will, specifically the O-line in the running game? Can they impose their will on a lesser opponent? And the answer last night was a resounding no, even though they were able to win. Now, Vagabond John called in earlier and mentioned all the misdirection and the trickery and how he hated it, and he's out on it. So I want to see more of it. I'm not going to draw judgment on one game because I'm reasonable. Come on, you know me. I'm the voice of reason. Something that struck me before I even got home, I listened to the first couple drives in the car because, if you must know, I was at the gym, and then I went to the liquor store, And I was looking for something specific, and the guy at the liquor store is like, we don't have that here. And I'm like, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know. And as I'm going out the door, he goes, but they have it at the Quick Trip across the street. And I said, sick, man, thanks for telling me. And then I went over to the Quick Trip, and they didn't have it either. So I was running errands. I was on my way home, and I was listening to, it's Tauscher, right? Tauscher in LePay. And he was talking about how Jeff Grimes and this offense was so concerned with tells and with indicators that Miami, Ohio's defense was watching. So they did all of this work to make sure, and they watched film from 2 years ago, and they did all this work to make sure that their formations were not showing anything. They lined up for whatever play. They tried to line up in the same look, is to not give any tells, to not get any evidence, so they could keep the Miami, Ohio defense in the dark. It was a big talking point on the radio broadcast. And as I was driving, I thought, okay, but it's Miami, Ohio. Line up and beat their ass. Like isn't that what this offense, we're returning to physical ground and pound, run the football? So look, I'm all for schematic advantages. Don't get me wrong. But it sounded like there was such this misdirections and tell, and we want to make sure we keep everything close to the vest. It's a MAC school. Push them out of the way and run it down their throat, and they couldn't do it. So the season certainly could have started worse. It looks like Billy Edwards Jr. avoided the worst. He might miss some time. Okay, so he's going to come back in Tuscaloosa? Like, all right. An inauspicious start for sure. Have a great Labor Day weekend. I'll be back on Tuesday. Talk to you then.
What can we say? Thank you all very much. You sure make a boy from Mississippi feel right at home in Wisconsin. Thank you all.